From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things that make us go wow.
Ow!
I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by editor of the Wow Report, James St. James.
That's me.
Mm-hmm. And our producer, Blake Jacobs. Once again, but the last time promised, sitting in for Tom Campbell. I mean, Blake, I don't mean the last time ever. I just mean in this block of time.
I called it last week. I said he's never coming back. I think you buried him in the alleyway at WoW. I will believe it when I see it, but
there is fresh cement out there.
But we miss him very much. And Tom, if you're listening, we want you back desperately.
You know he won't be listening.
Does anybody?
There's anybody out there? Okay, let's start our countdown. Number 10 that made us go wow this week. What is it, James?
Number 10.
The Tina documentary on HBO, Tina Turner. Did anyone watch it?
I did.
You did? Okay. I thought it was absolutely spectacular for a number of reasons. There's so much footage that you've never seen of early Tina Turner. There's the whole first half of the documentary is her in the Ike and Tina Turner review, and it's the late 50s, early 60s, all that like really fantastic R&B music and the early rock and roll, and you can't take your eyes off her. She's so talented and so energetic, and she's telling the story of her life, and it gets bogged down a lot with the Ike stuff, the abuse. And that's sort of hard to watch, and it's very triggering. But then there's all these phases of her life. There's like that post-Ike phase in the 70s, the late 70s, when she was washed up and she was doing any gig for $60. She was on the Brady Bunch Hour. She was on Hollywood Squares. She was performing at the Ramada Inn in Riverside. I mean, like anything. And she's like sort of sleazy 70s, horror look. It's just... And I'm going to let you talk in just one second. There's the stuff at the end where she's in her 80s and she's sitting in her mansion in Zurich and she's looking back on her life. And that's fascinating because she doesn't seem impressed by anything she did. She says she's never been happy. She says she's never had love. She says it was all just sort of a big waste of time. You get the feeling that she's sort of like none of it means anything to her. And this is her bowing out. And she says, this is the last time anyone's ever going to see me. This is my farewell to public life. And she's just going to fade away like she never happened at all. And it's just really riveting documentary TV. What do you think, Fenton?
Love that mansion in Switzerland. Oh my gosh, that chair in that room. I mean, is that really her place? Like, was it like
and just that sprawling yard that goes down to Lake Como or whatever it is. Just it's like literally like 10 footballs long, fields long.
If I lived in Zurich, you'd never see me again, honey.
Never,
I mean, like in the day when Gabriel Rotella was doing Downtown Jukes and Divas. Yeah, remember? Me and Randy and Tish and Snooki, we all performed Proud Mary. As
you were a bunch of Proud Marys, I'll tell you that.
And, I can't sing for shit. But they gave me the lines, you don't have to worry if you have no money because the people on the river are happy to give. And somehow I got through it and did all the dance, the shimmying and a little... It was so fabulous. Like, it's, not having really done drag much in my life, but like, I felt it. I felt the,
you felt the energy, the crackle.
So unimpressed with it. Like, I just love that. Yeah, that was a thing. I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And she talks about how she was, a middle-aged woman doing 200 stadium shows a year and the toll, it takes on her physically, and that she, she's like, yeah, that's what I wanted, and that's what I did, and I did it, and who gives a fuck? Like, it's just, it's so interesting that she is the one person in the world who is not like captivated by Tina Turner.
How about her rediscovery via Heaven 17?
What was that?
Well, Heaven 17 rediscovered her, and that's when she recorded Private Dancer. And
Oh wait, that Ray Davies, the Ray guy, that was the guy from Heaven 17?
yes.
I had no idea. That's so funny because I'd just been listening to Let Me Go, which is my favorite 80s song of all time. I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, Heaven 17, but my understanding is they sort of literally found her, rediscovered her. But they did more than Private Dancer, didn't they? They did.
Well, I'll tell you something, because what's love got to do with it is actually they show it.
Sorry, buried the lead. Yes, what's love got to do with it? Sorry,
but it was actually a Bucks Fizz song, and they were like a really tacky 70s. Late 70s.
It's making your mind up time. Bucks Fizz. They were the steps of the 80s, right?
They were what went from disco into new wave, basically.
I'm a Barbie doll. I'm a Barbie doll.
Aqua.
Or the Venga Boys. Bucks Fizz with the Venga Boys.
Yes.
Well, I think you're mixing up two songs, the Venga Boys, and then Barbie Girl was Aqua.
Right. Well, Aqua, same sort of thing. Barbie Girl, Venga Boys.
It's all very Bucks Fizz. Another interesting thing, just very quickly, is that with her mother, and her mother is such a hateful villainess who abandoned her as a child, and then the minute she became famous again in the 80s was right back there dressed in the jewels and the furs and everything, that Tina said, she doesn't like me. She's never liked me, but she's happy to take my money. And she's happy to take the house that I gave her and everything like that. And then there's an interview with the mother, and they ask her something about her childhood, and she just has no clue what's it. She's just like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't give a fuck. It's just, that's all fascinating too. And you sort of get the feeling that's where her sort of Yeah.
I just have to say generally, I mean, I think Tina is an amazing masterpiece, and HBO docs generally, they have all the hot docs.
They're really on a roll right now, aren't they?
They are totally on fire. Love it. All right, so stream Tina on HBO Max. Number 9. I know we think we've had it bad in 2020 with the pandemic and such, but when do you think the worst year to be alive was?
1349 during the Black Plague. Or maybe like during one of the depressions, or
anytime before cell phones.
It was that awful year of Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 7.
Okay. I thought maybe one of you would say 1918 because the pandemic.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But anyway, it's none of those. It is 536. 536 AD, a mysterious fog plunged Europe, the Middle East, and most of Asia into darkness day and night for 18 months. It was, in fact, the coldest decade in the past 2,300 years. Snow fell in the summer. Crops failed. People died. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, in 536, I'll tell you what happened in you're saying, I know you're saying what happened in 536.
Well, I was going to say there was probably a volcano somewhere that spewed the ash into the
Absolutely right, James.
Yes.
Spewed sulfur, bismuth, and other substances high into the atmosphere, forming an aerosol veil that reflected the sun's light back into space. And this was an eruption in Iceland. Huge.
Oh.
And then in 540 there was another one, and in 547 there was another one. So it was just
one after the other, and it brings on like another ice age, doesn't it? Is that how long did this last?
And as if that wasn't enough, in 541 the Black Plague strikes, and it was known as the Plague of Justinian. Wiped out 1/3 to 1/2 of the population of the Eastern Roman Empire. So we think we've had it bad, but
interestingly, I was reading a book about Krakatoa, the volcano that happened in 1875 or whatever like that. And they were saying that it was so loud that it sent 23 sonic booms around the earth. And that if it happened in New York, you could hear it in Los Angeles and Rome. That's how loud the boom of. So I'm thinking like when these volcanoes really go off, we really got to be worried. Isn't there one right now in Iceland that's about to go off again?
There is, and that's why I stumbled upon this, because the one that created 536, the worst year in the history of humanity, was in Iceland.
And it's going to happen again very soon, and then we're all going to be plunged into another ice age?
Right, and then we'll have a dose of Black Death, or those there's an Ebola. A whole bunch of people are being isolated. I think don't want to get this wrong, but it's up in Portland, I think, or in Oregon.
Really?
A lot of people are isolated for fear of Ebola, that they got infected with Ebola.
Is it just me, or has there been like a lot of Ebola outbreaks in the past 10 years?
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say there's a lot going on in Portland because that's where the murder hornets are. I think that's like where the hellmouth is, and that's where, Satan is going to rise. But do you think that if that happened now, that we would have the technology to weather through, the skies going gray and the...
I mean, how can you fix that though? Like big fans?
I mean, right? I mean that what killed
Okay,
the
Dr. Evil.
a giant cloud like the one created by the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs. That there was a great die-off. There's been these massive die-offs.
Well, maybe we're due for another one.
All right. Okay. Well, on that cheery note, let's move on. We posted a link to that on the WoW report, so you can investigate further. Oh, and by the way, I will just add that the reason they know all this, it used to be that you'd look at the rings of a tree, but now not now, but for some time, they drill down into the ice, and then they can microanalyze the ice, and by looking at the snowfall, almost within a few days, they can see bits of volcanic ash or what have you. So it's pretty interesting.
Huh.
All right. What have we got at number 8?
Number 8.
Well, at number 8, have you guys seen Bad Trip on Netflix?
Oh, you told me to watch it and I didn't watch it. What? Tell me about it.
Okay, so it was originally supposed to come out in April of last year, but it was postponed to COVID-19. And then it actually had a leak on Amazon Prime. I don't know how this happened, but it was up for a little while and long enough for it to be pirated. But anyway, Netflix has bought it, and it was released on March 26th. And this is one of those movies in the same vein as like Jackass, where it's like all pranks.
Oh, right. Or like Borat. Yeah.
Or like Borat, more like Borat, I guess, because no one really gets hurt during the pranks.
Right.
But it stars Eric Andre.
I love Eric Andre. Oh, he's so handsome.
Yeah. Lil Ray Howery. And though he is from Get Out, he was like the comedic relief in Get Out.
Oh, the best friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they are two goofballs who, well, first of all, in the opening scene of the movie, Eric Andre is working at one of those car washes where you drop your car off, and one of the pranks, he's talking to this guy, where are you from? And he has the vacuum cleaner. And he sucks his entire outfit off. So he's standing there butt naked. And the guy's like, he gets in the back seat of the guy's BMW because his girlfriend from high school, or this girl who he's always had the hots for, pulls up. And so he's standing there naked, and he gets in the back seat of the guy's BMW. And the guy's all trying to like get the girl's number for Eric Andre, who's in the naked, and it's hilarious. It also has Tiffany Haddish in it.
Oh, I love Tiffany. Yeah.
She plays like a criminal sister of Lil Ray Howery. And so the girlfriend actually lives in New York and runs a gallery, the one that Eric Andre has the hots for. So Lil Ray and Eric Andre steal Tiffany Haddish's car. That's this pink, like Caprice 1988. It says "bad bitch" on the back. It's really funny. Steal her car and go from Florida to New York to see the girlfriend. Tiffany Haddish follows them. There's pranks that happen along the way. In one part, Eric Andre and Lil Ray get their dicks stuck in a Chinese finger trap, and they're trying to get them out. And they run into this barber shop, and the guy comes out with a knife. And it's actually come out now that like Eric Andre had to talk Lil Ray back into filming after they got the knife pulled on him. So it was really funny. I would recommend it.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's like an hour and 20 minutes. So That's the perfect amount
That's
of
good
movie for
too.
me. Yeah.
Because everything now seems to be 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours.
Totally.
Bad Trip streaming now on Netflix. Okay, we're gonna take a break. Just before we do, the very first teaser for Drag Race España has been released, and you can see it now on Wow Presents Plus, and of course on our Wow Presents channel, YouTube worldwide, excluding Spain. But yeah, it's coming soon.
I'm excited.
Reveal date, the official premiere date, not yet revealed, but yeah, new versions of Drag Race. There's Drag Race Down Under, Drag Race España, both coming very, very soon. So, let's take a break. Blake, if you got a question,
I do. Yesterday was April Fool's Day. What country do most historians believe that the April Fool's customs began in?
Oh.
well, that's a really good question, and we'll have the answer right after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
All right, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James, St. James, and Blake. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week. James, your glasses are a bit squiffy.
I know what's going on. I
You
was
look-
drunk.
The kids are wearing their glasses upside down. That's
Let
really-
me see if I can do that.
which for me doesn't work because these are bifocal. So yeah, it's a look.
It is. Look, there we go.
Hey Blake, what was the question?
Okay, so yesterday was April Fool's Day. In what country do most historians believe that the April Fool's customs began?
I'm gonna say Great Britain.
I was going to say like Ireland. It sounds like an Irish thing to me.
You're both close. It started in France.
Oh,
And
well, the French don't have a sense of humor.
well, the reason is it may stem from a calendar change in 16th century France, moving New Year's Day from April 1st to January 1st.
That
people-
was what was his name? The emperor from Rome who did that, right? When a Roman emperor.
Was it
Sure.
the Augustan calendar?
Yeah, was it?
Gregorian.
Gregorian.
Oh, the
There you go.
Gregorian.
People who continued to celebrate New Year's Day on April 1st rather than the new
Were
day.
considered fools.
Right. And people played tricks on them.
That's funny because you're such an idiot. You get to,
Do you have any great April Fool's experiences?
I told my mom one time that I accidentally clicked on eBay and bought a whole ass Jeep. She was pissed.
Oh, that's so funny. I took my young nephew, Oliver, I was in London, to the Elton John sale. Do you remember in the 80s? He sold everything.
Yeah.
And on the way home, we bought some like cheap plastic glasses with star shapes that were like, $2. And I came into the house and I said to my sister, oh, Oliver put his hand up in the auction and we paid $500,000 for this pair of sunglasses. She completely free. I felt so bad. I mean, what if I had a heart attack? I was like, she literally fell to the floor.
I was gonna go down to Hollywood Toys and Costumes and buy one of those fake lottery tickets and give it to my dad, but my mom advised against it because she was worried he'd have a heart attack. So
April Fool's Day will always be special to me because Elliot, my youngest, who's 6, came home from hospital on that day.
Really?
Aw.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so that was the best April Fool's. All right, we're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow, and we have reached number 7. James.
Number 7.
Number 7, I did an Invisible Man marathon over the weekend. I started with the 2020 Elizabeth Moss Invisible Man, which was just awful. Dear God in heaven. No. It started off with such great premise, and it was started off so beautifully. The cinematography, everything about it is so beautiful and fabulous. And you think it's going to be a really great movie, and then it just descends into chaos. And there's this whole fourth act that doesn't need to be there. And if they had just stuck with the premise that she was paranoid and delusional and losing her mind, and everyone thought that she was crazy, then it would have worked. But there's this whole thing with the brother, and it's just, and then she has this invisible suit and she doesn't wear it until the last 5 minutes of the movie. Like she doesn't wear it to escape.
Spoiler alert. Oh,
I'm sorry. It's been a year. But anyway, so then
I thought like most people loved that, didn't they?
Well, Fenton, you were nodding your head in vigorously.
I loved it. I loved
Did
it.
you?
I loved the suit. I loved all the cameras and the winking cameras and little sound effects. And I just loved the restaurant scene. I mean,
there is one scene that is a genuine shocker, and I'm not going to spoil that, but there is a couple of what the fuck moments that happen. But I thought the last third could have just needed some edits. But then I went back and watched the 1933 original Invisible Man made by Universal when they were doing the Wolfman and Frankenstein and Dracula. And this is based on the H.G. Wells novel. And it stars Claude Rains, who is a madman and who's a mad scientist who discovers the formula. And then he goes on this murder spree. And it's really done very well. It also stars Gloria Stewart, who is the old lady in Titanic when she was and she's in her 20s here and just so beautiful. And he has this weird maniacal laugh that you realize is where the Joker comes from. That like it's that Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, that it's really spine chill. I mean, it like literally gives you chills to hear it. It's so good. Then I went and downloaded The Return of the Invisible Man with Vincent Price, which is okay. And then I did The Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon, which is holds up, and that's really good. And then, do you remember Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah in the early 90s? And it was terrible.
Oh, I thought you were going to say this is the best one.
Well, no, but it's based on a book called The Memoirs of an Invisible Man by a man named H.F. Saint. And I remember I read it in the late 80s, and that's really, really, really a good book. And if you ever want to start with Invisible Man, that's where you start, because the whole idea that you can't eat, you have to wait 8 hours for it to digest. You can't be in mist or rain or snow or anything. And you have to be naked the entire time, even during the winter. Like all those things, like you think that you're invisible and you can get away with it. But the fact is nothing he does, he can get away with, because it really isn't as cool as you think it's going to be. It's really fantastic. So I just put it out there that maybe everyone should do an Invisible Man marathon over the weekend in comparison.
I wonder what sort of psychic thing drew you to that. Like, why now did you feel the call of the Invisible Man?
Because
it's streaming.
No, I want, psychologically speaking, I want to be invisible. I want to be like Tina Turner and just fade away from view.
No, but also the Invisible Man, the remake that you just loathe so much, kind of was one of the last films in a theater before the audience became invisible. You know,
there you go. Yeah,
an overreach, perhaps.
Yeah. So Invisible Man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hollow Man. Chevy Chase, Daryl Hannah. There you go.
All right, number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6. I read this article in Popular Mechanics, which is not a magazine I normally read, but I was reading.
I didn't realize you had a subscription.
And basically, the question is: could future humans evolve to have venom glands? And the whole premise of this article is that, well, there's a new study has been done by scientists from the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology Graduate University and the Australian National University have joined forces, did this study, and they've discovered that saliva glands actually became venom glands in many animals. And so they wonder if, evolutionary-wise speaking, the same thing could happen to humans, that we could, become venomous.
Aren't there like studies about like what's in saliva and that it really has like all sorts of powerful like agents in it that we don't even realize how?
Well, that's the reason that one woman used to lick people's eyeballs, remember?
Oh, right. She cured them. She cured their, what was it?
I don't remember, but
that's right. And I'd heard that if you get bitten by a human, it's like you'd be more infectious than if you're bitten by a dog.
Yeah. Huh. And so what was the outcome of this? Are we going to all have fangs?
We can go around biting people and killing them.
Okay.
I think
My fanciful mind, I wondered if the sort of toxicity of social media was a prefiguration or an antecedent of this, or was going to prove to be an evolutionary trigger. That, everybody's just getting so toxic and angry. If this is a sort of the warm-up act to our saliva glands becoming venom glands.
Well, I was just wondering if maybe after the volcano puts us into another ice age, we're all going to have to be zombies and go around biting and eating each other to stay alive.
There you go, exactly. And it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Because the idea of what are they called? Vampires. I mean, they have that sort of psychic sort of
right, yeah.
And maybe zombies, vampires and zombies. And I always thought that 28 Days Later was actually the best zombie movie ever made, because the premise is it's an infection of rage that breaks out. Remember that they were like experimenting in the lab, and this virus that just made people insane.
And that was the beginning of the fast zombies, which is just terrifying. Oh, God.
I mean, I do sometimes think the level of toxicity of social media is just bizarrely high. It's like, and where is it leading to? Have we
always been this toxic and angry and we just weren't seeing it? Or are we angrier in 2021 than we were in 2011?
I think we've always been this angry, but there hasn't been a way for people to be toxic on social media and other people to see it.
Maybe we weren't elevating toxicity the way we do, the way we sort of like fantasize about how it makes you more famous to be. The more toxic you are, the more fabulous you become.
Thank you, Brittany.
There was it like the movie Network where the guy throws open the window and says, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore."
Yes,
that's social media, I suppose. Is that what was the domain of network executives has now become everybody's?
Well, but Network was actually very prescient itself. Remember about how it sort of foreshadowed the rise of reality television in the way that the networks are, in control, and they control the media and the narrative. Anyway,
I will post the link, or Blake will post the link to the study for scientists who want to dig deeper into this. But yes, watch out, because humans are going to become even more toxic than we already are. All right, let's go on to number 5.
Number 5.
I figured we'd just do a few little hot topics. Have you guys heard the story about how Rachel Bilson from the show The OC used to go to the same school and run in the same crowd as Rami Malek?
I did see this, yes.
Now, that was crazy, but she actually posted a throwback picture that she found somewhere of them in high school to her social media.
And it's adorable. She's absolutely, Rachel Bilson is so cute anyway. And he's adorable as a little, high schooler, but he's wearing this gold chain that's sort of douchey, and he got upset with it and had his people contact her.
Well, yeah, she said he DM'd her, and
first her people contacted
it to be
her.
Like, hey, how are you and everything. But it was like, yeah, can you please take that down?
And she was sort of sad because she was like, he takes himself why is he taking himself so seriously? It's just a silly picture, know? And he he's an Oscar winner now, and he thought that this would, ruin his image. And it's very silly. Anyway.
She said they were super closer than I would think. She said we were in the same crew. We did the Crucible together senior year. We were the leads in it together. Like all these things, we kind of kept in contact a little bit. He's always been super talented, a really amazing actor, even in high school. So
I team Rachel, team Rachel all the way here.
Totally. What about toxic rage, right?
Yeah. And speaking of toxic, have you guys been following the Britney news? No. Britney responded to the framing Britney Spears documentary with
Framing Britney, which was triggering me because I just mention of that documentary makes me mad as hell and furious and just filled with rage and venom, just spitting poison.
I think you're just spitting that you didn't get to do it. I think that's what it is. I think no matter who did it, you were going to be mad.
I am perfectly capable of owning up to professional jealousy any day of the week. This is not that.
Well, she finally responded on Instagram with a a video of her dancing to Aerosmith's Crazy.
Oh.
But she said basically that it made her really sad. And what did she say?
She also said that she didn't watch the whole thing. She only watched a few minutes, which is like good for her, girl, because that shit is not worth watching.
She said, I didn't watch the documentary, but from what I did see of it, I was embarrassed by the lot they put me in. I cried for 2 weeks, and I still cry sometimes.
Poor Brittany. I mean, will she ever find happiness, or is she just? Will we see her in Zurich when she's 80 years old, looking back on it all, saying, "I don't give a fuck. I was never happy."
As long as it's not Kentwood, Louisiana.
Oh, she'll have her mansion in Kentwood. Oh.
I like the idea of Zurich. That's a good idea. I mean, at least with Tina, we feel, right, completion. She may not, and she seems happy. Tina seems happy, right, James? Is she happy, or at least just content? Or...
I think she finally found love, which was the thing that she was looking for her whole life. And she found it in a man that, has stood by her. And I think they are really happy together. And I think she is very happy just swanning around that mansion in fabulous, Armani outfits.
And I wish the very same happiness for Brittany too.
Yes.
Yeah. There was also Sharon Stone was on the Kelly Clarkson show and said that Brittany had written her a letter in 2007 asking for help or something. And Sharon Stone wasn't really in a place herself to help. So
Sharon Stone was also in the news when she spoke out. Oh God, what was it? She just said that cancel culture. She said it's just the stupidest thing ever, and why cancel somebody for their opinions? And it was sort of like taking the wrong. She said the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Are you canceling Sharon Stone for canceling?
Well, that's what I said. I said, let's cancel her for even suggesting we can't cancel her.
You know why she's in the news is because she's got a biography out, which seems like lots of talking points are coming out of it, like what she had to do in Fatal Attraction, right? And the whole on set
Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct, yeah.
Thank you. Basic Instinct. That was Glenn Close. Gosh.
Well, but she talks a lot about the abuse that she suffered at the hands of many male directors, and how she couldn't get work for a long time. And everyone has their.
Read that book, James? Maybe you'll do it next week, right?
Maybe. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of Audible credits, so.
Okay.
All right, let's take a break. I just got to tell you the official RuPaul's Drag Race UK tour, and that stars the cast of UK Series 2. Tickets are gone on sale now. They've already sold out, but the good news is they've been extended, and there's more dates every day. So you go to vossevents.com, right, Blake? Is that where you go?
Yes.
We'll post a link on the WoW Report. So let's take a break. Blake, do you have a question?
I do. So this person's stories, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Little Mermaid, and The Snow Queen, have all been made into animated Disney films. And today is his birthday. Who is it?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, you sound like you know the answer to that one.
Of course, darling.
The big reveal after the break. You listen to the WoW Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders WoW Report. Things that make us go wow.
All right, welcome back to the WoW Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and our producer Blake Jacobs, sitting in for Tom Campbell, who's hopefully listening at home.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question?
So this guy's stories, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Little Mermaid, and The Snow Queen, have all been made into animated Disney films. And today is his birthday. Who is it?
Well, Hans Christian Andersen, right?
That's right.
Well, of course.
Happy birthday, Hans Christian Andersen.
And how many years old is he today?
Like 3,000.
But the original, if you've ever read the original Little Mermaid, it is a dark, bleak story where she she trades her voice every time her legs, when she gets the real legs, human legs, every time she makes a step, it feels like there are nails going into her feet, and they're bloody. And when he dances with her at the ball, her feet are just bleeding, and she's just in agony. And then in the end, she's depressed, and she goes and turns into sea foam and dies.
Yeah,
very different than the movie.
Right.
Well,
picnic, right? I mean, even the Hansel and Gretel one, that's Hans Christian Andersen, right?
I don't know about that one, but I do know The Princess and the Pea is him. and that was like one of the first plays I ever went to see in elementary school, and I never even knew he did all these other. I always knew him from The Princess and the Pea.
I have a really great book that is, when I say to you, what's your favorite fairy tale? What's the one that comes to mind immediately? Like Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, anything like that. Fenton, what's the one that comes into your mind?
It's Hansel and Gretel. It's something about that gingerbread cottage.
Well, you know, and then it gives psychologically. It's the idea is that fairy tales were made for children during rough periods of their life and during rough periods in history, and it gave them the tools in which to overcome whatever obstacles they were facing. And that Hansel and Gretel, I'm a Hansel and Gretel too, and my Hansel and Gretel thing is that I was adopted, and that I feel like my parents cast me out into the forest, and that I'm always looking for mother figures like the witch. And also the thing about, you said the gingerbread house, that's
Oral fixation.
Oral fixation, where you're always trying to shove things into your mouth because you weren't satisfactorily, breastfed as a child.
Well, I don't know about the breastfeeding as a child, but the first part, yes, guilty as charged.
Yeah, Blake, what is yours?
Well, the first one I thought of was Jack and the Beanstalk. Does that mean I want a big stalk?
Well, that is a phallus. That's totally you have small dick fears, or you're chasing after big dicks, or your daddy's dick or something.
Size queen.
Yeah. So also there's something there about trying to please your mother, and with the beans and everything, and fear of failure and all of that.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, we're still counting down the top 10 things from this week that made us go wow, and we have reached number 4.
Number 4.
Oh, number 4. On this day in soap opera history, 1980, 41 years ago today, on Ryan's Hope, it happened this week, was that Delia would would go to the zoo every day and talk to this gorilla named Prince Albert. And it was this man in a gorilla suit, and it was so bad. But the gorilla fell in love with Delia, and Delia was like an Erica Kane. She was like a villainess. She was like a ditzy villainess. And the gorilla fell in love and escaped from the zoo after boys were like throwing beans at him and throwing like darts at him and stuff. And he escaped from the zoo and went on a rampage and kidnapped Delia and carried her to the top of Belvedere Castle in Central Park. You know the castle I'm talking about, Fenton? Yes. And so he carries her to the top, and they throw tranquilizer darts at him, and he throws her off the tower. And then when she falls to the ground, she bumps her head and she gets psychic powers. And it sounds the 80s soap operas, like there was, villains like trying to take over the world with weather machines. Like this soap operas in this 80s were really silly and crazy. And this sounds really silly, and people still laugh at the story of this man in a gorilla suit. But the woman who played Delia, Randall Edwards was her name, and she sold the hell out of the story. And she was so good. Every day when she would go and talk to the gorilla, and she would feed him banana bread through the bars, and she would cry to him about his life. And you saw the gorilla slowly falling in love with her. And then the gorilla is stalking her, and you see the gorilla hiding in bushes, and he's like looking through windows at her. And the whole story is so crazy, but it was so good. And I have it on the WoW Report. I have about 10 episodes of it up on the WoW Report, and I suggest everyone watch it.
Can I ask a question? How did the gorilla get out of the jail? I mean, not the jail, the zoo.
Well, like I said, there were these little kids that would come every day and throw things at him and make fun of him. And finally, one day he was just furious. He was like, "Ah, ah, ah," and he was like banging at the
bars.
The bars, and he ripped the bars off, and the whole thing fell apart. And he ran off and managed to escape into the Central Park.
There's an amazing part of Bad Trip that I talked about earlier with where Eric and Andre goes into a gorilla and and he gets sodomized by the gorilla, which is actually just a man in a gorilla suit, like you were talking about. So.
See, we always find a way to tie these things together.
Well, try this then. Okay, we'll post that on the WoW. Try this. Number 3, Kentucky Fried Chicken Log.
Number 3.
So You know, like when you order things for Christmas, and in the days of the internet now, you order things and they never come. But like 2 months after Christmas, you get a package and you're like, what? Was like, and you open it up and ta-da. So I got a late Christmas present. Here we are, April Fools, pretty much. And it's a Kentucky Fried Chicken log. It is you unwrap it. I unwrapped it, and it's one of those fire logs, you know, that you put on the fire. It's a fried chicken scented fire log.
Wow.
And apparently, who knew? They've been doing this for 3 years, every holidays. They sell out. You could get them at Walmart, and they've partnered with Envirolog, who sort of take wax paper and press it into logs that help start your fire. And supposedly Envirolog, because they're like less emissions than regular logs.
Right, yeah.
And but this thing stinks. I mean, it sort of does smell of fried chicken.
So it was really cold last week. It was like in the 40s. So
I didn't have it last week, so I only got it this week. So
okay.
I'm gonna have to but it says they have to print on the outside, "Do not eat." Not actually fried chicken.
Well, it's funny because, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, they do a lot of wacky things to promote their stuff. They had chicken scented nail polish for a while. I remember that, and they did the Harlequin romance novel with the Colonel. Remember, he was like a shirtless Fabio stud.
Was the nail polish, now that I'm thinking about it, wasn't that an April Fool's Day thing a few years ago?
No, it's edible nail polish released only in Hong Kong. And then they followed that with chicken-scented sunscreen. And in 2019, they did a faux bearskin rug that resembles Colonel Sanders. Put the picture online. It's pretty grotesque, to tell you the truth. I mean, they're getting all these plaudits. I mean, I guess like Burger King the other week with the moldy burger.
Right. I would like to be in the room, the war room where they're discussing like how they're going to, you know, advertise this year, because that must be a fun job coming up with
a fun job. But it didn't. I don't know if you know. It's all tied into the fact that in 2015 they brought back Colonel Sanders because he had been dropped as the mascot. And so this is all Colonel Sanders. And an interesting, they call it the recolonization program, which is I think a little unfortunate.
But if you remember, they kept switching colonels every couple of months. There'd be a new colonel, and it was so confusing and upsetting. And like one week it would be Rob Lowe, and the next week it would be like, you know, Ed Begley Jr. And
the best one is Reba, though.
Yes, Reba was Colonel. And I just found it disturbing and upsetting. And I thought that whole thing was just terrible. I was very upset with that.
And then they had Mario Lopez in the original Lifetime movie as the Colonel.
Yes.
And then your Crocs.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, I mean, nothing's going to persuade me to go and eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm sorry. It just,
really?
I love the merch, but I'm not going to eat the food.
I love Kentucky Fried Chicken.
We used to go for lunch.
They have that new sandwich that looks delicious, doesn't it?
Remember they had that one sandwich that was just 2 things of chicken?
Oh, God. The buns were chicken breasts. Yeah. And then there was a chicken breast. And so you were eating like 3 chicken breasts. And your fingers, I remember we ate it. We did it for the WOW Report. And your fingers are just greasy for like the whole day.
Oh, it's like a wig on a wig, right? All right, so that's that. Let's move on to number 2, James.
Number 2.
Oh, that's me again. I read a book, and this goes back to something else we were just talking about. I can't remember. Called "A Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum," and it's by Emma Southon, and it's about murder in ancient Rome. And it's a story telling the history of Rome through the various political murders that happened over its 2,000-year period from ancient times until 1000. And it starts off, Rome was founded by twins, Remus and Romulus, and they were left abandoned by the side of the road by their parents and suckled by a she-wolf to survive. And then later, when they came back as conquering generals, they founded the city of Rome on the spot where they were suckled by the she-wolf. And then later, they as they built Rome, they got into an argument over who had more power, and Romulus killed Remus, and that's why it's named Rome, after Romulus. And then so they tell that story, and so they say that basically Rome was just founded on murder, and that the whole history of Rome is just murder, murder, murder. And you go to like Julius Caesar, which is the most famous murder in all of history, and when he's murdered on the steps of the Senate by all the senators and stabbed in the back and et tu brути, and that was the biggest funeral in the history of mankind, bigger than Queen Victoria's and bigger than Abraham Lincoln's, where like 1/3 of the world showed up for his funeral. And that's when Mark Antony gave his friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear speech. But then it goes back to like 200 years before, when Tiberius was murdered by all of his senators, and he was beaten to death by clubs and sticks and stones. And so they're saying that basically you think that Julius Caesar was this weird thing, but there was 200 years where they were just murdering, all politicians were getting murdered by everybody. And then there's all the fun. It's this light, breezy book. It's really, really beautifully written and really fun to read, even though it's about murder. But, like they would tie you in a sack with a bunch of venomous snakes, and you'd have to get out, or they'd throw the sack in the river, or then they had that giant iron bowl that they'd put you inside the giant iron bowl and then light a fire underneath it, and you would slowly fry in it. And then like just some of the ways they came up with killing you is just crazy, crazy, crazy. And it's just a very fun, breezy book about murder in the ancient world.
Fabulous. That's Murder at the Forum, available on the Amazon.
Yes.
Hey, next Thursday, it's the season finale of the T.S. Madison Experience on WeTV, 10 p.m. You can watch past episodes on the WeTV app. This is a really amazing series. We've had T.S. Madison on here before, and I hope we will again. And I can't wait for season 2. So when we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow. And I meant to say this at the beginning of the show. I am so excited about this week's number one. Because normally it's like, but all right, this is the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report, things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James, St. James, and Blake, and we've reached the number one thing this week that made us go wow. And I think it's not just the wow of the week. I think it's the wow of the year. I think the wow of the decade, maybe even the wow of the century, or maybe my entire life.
Well, I take it away then, Fenton. You get to lead this one and tell us what's going on.
Number 1.
It's Montero. Is Lil Nas X video for his new single, which James St. James wrote up on the Wow Report, talking about bottoming for Satan. Yes.
Bottoming for Satan. He rides the stripper pole to hell and then bottoms for Satan. And the Republicans have gone bananas.
Canceling. Cancel culture.
Yes. Cancel Lil Nas X. How dare he? Satanism in pop music. What's going to happen next?
And not only how dare he, but how brilliantly he has clapped back.
Oh,
not only clapped back, the way he positioned it in the first place. He tweeted out, as a teenager, my teenage years, I hated myself because of all the shit you preached would happen to me because I was gay. I hope you are mad. Stay mad and feel the same anger you taught us to have towards ourselves. It's such a brilliant fuck you. Because here's the thing. Christians use Christ to preach hatred, which is not what Christ was ever about. So why not flip the switch, turn the tables, and use Satan to promote love? It is a brilliant sleight of hand.
Well, first of all, I mean, Lil Nas X, 21 years. How old is he? He's young so brilliant at trolling the trolls. He's so good at it. But when you think about it, like all these, Christians and evangelicals and the right wingers and the pundits on Fox and everything going bananas about this. the devil has been a part of pop culture for as long as, he's in cartoons. He's in, I mean, every cartoon has a Satan, has a devil. He's been in movies and in songs, and the devil why now? Why in 2021 is all of a sudden having a devil in your pop music video considered such an outrage?
It's because these Christians aren't really interested in love and equality and Christian values. They want to control the narrative, and they want to have the power, and they don't like it when you use their icons in some way other than what they consider, the devil is for burning the ass of faggots in hell for all time. That's what they want. And they get very cross when he gives a lap dance to say that he's so good. I read an article actually in Time magazine where some academics unpack some of the religious symbolism. And it's really interesting because Roland Betancourt, who's a professor at University of California, he says this is a really well-researched, really scholastic music video. And just one example, the song's cover art, it's kind of a redo of Michelangelo, God creating Adam, in the Sistine Chapel, but it's Lil Nas X sort of connecting with Lil Nas X. And in the Garden of Eden, there's this great moment after the snake appears, which is Lil Nas X. The camera pans to, I just want to find it. The camera pans to the tree of knowledge, and on the tree of knowledge is a Greek phrase that translates to, after the division of the two parts of man, each desiring his other half, which comes from Plato's Symposium, which is this story of mankind in which humans were originally two bodies stuck together. That man, some man and man, some woman and woman, and some man and woman. And that after this moment, they were split apart. Zeus got pissed off because everyone was having such a good time. And so the sort of story that this tells is really, and even a little detail where, he's in this, there's 3 acts. In the second act, he's brought into the Colosseum in a giant wig, kind of like a Christian stoning thing. He's going up to heaven, and instead of St. Peter meeting him at the pearly gates, it's Ganymede. And the thing about Ganymede was he was this youth who was so beautiful that Zeus turned him into a eagle so he would go to heaven.
Oh, interesting.
And then before he can get there, he goes down this long stripper pole, and that's how he ends up in the lap of the devil.
Getting fucked by
another quote in Latin, which translates as "they condemn what they do not understand," which is basically,
that's
Christians hate whatever's counter to the idea of white heterosexual male sensibility.
But that's the phrase that Christ says on the cross.
Yeah.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Yeah.
So fuck me. Not only is it an amazing music video, it is an intellectual treatise repositioning the whole debate of or rebutting the whole idea of institutionalized hatred of gayness. I mean, wow.
It's amazing. And I will say, after all that smart stuff you just said, Fenton, he also has said that the storyboard of him chained up in the Coliseum came from a SpongeBob episode where Patrick.
So we go from high to low in the same video. I love it.
I love it. James, do you love it?
I do. I love him. I think he's just so fantastic and so fun and just such a breath of fresh air. Everything he does is just wonderful. I think he's the best we got.
Definitely. Finally, someone who can clap back at these awful people.
And I love that, that he's so young, and that we theoretically we have like 30 years of Lil Nas X to look forward to of him.
Well, and I'm just glad, because I was kind of convinced he was going to be a one-hit wonder.
After Old Town Road, that whenever something is that big, like, how do you top it? Like, yeah.
Well, he's topped it by bottoming to Satan.
Yeah.
Well, because I worried about Rihanna after Umbrella. I thought she could never top that and that she would go away. But so hopefully it's a new era.
Well, that's all we got time for this week. Hey, Blake, have we got anything to plug? RuPaul's Drag Race season 13 is still airing, right?
Dear God in heaven, how many episodes did you make? It's been going on since 2018.
We are approaching the finale, so this is not the time.
I thought there were still 14 people left last time I checked.
That's
So
Friday nights.
Friday nights tonight. All right, that's all we got time for this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake.
Darling.
Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go wow.